Hello friends, I am here to share with you a book I'm so excited about. This is a book that's new to me. It's not a new book. And I have been really enjoying finding new stories to read with you this year for our 14 days before winter break. This is a book called Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins. It is by Kimmel and it's illustrated by Trina Shart-Hyman. This medal right here says that this book is a Caldecott Honor Book, which is awards that are given to picture books illustrators for really great illustrations, and I'm excited to show you there's some very cool illustrations in here. We've talked before in one of our other stories with Oscar and the 8 Blessings that this year Hanukkah begins on December 10th and goes through the night of December 18th. And I would like to just read for you, there's a great description of what Hanukkah is and what it celebrates in the back of this book. So I'm gonna start at the back, which I never recommend with a book, but I wanna share this information because for those of you whose families don't celebrate Hanukkah, I want you to have a little background information before we get into the story so you have some good understanding as a reader as we go. This says, Hanukkah is a holiday that celebrates freedom. More than 2,000 years ago, the land of Israel was ruled by Syrians. The Syrians would not allow the Jews to worship as they wanted. But in 164 BC, a small band of Jewish soldiers defeated the Syrian army. Then they rebuilt and cleaned the temple. When they tried to relight the menorah, however, they found only a tiny bit of pure oil. And the menorah is a really special candelabra that Jewish people use. It was enough to last for just one day. By some miracle, the oil burned for 8 days. So there's a tiny bit of oil, but somehow it lasts as a miracle for 8 days. The menorah is a candle holder with 8 branches. 1 candle is lit the first night, 2 the second, 3 the third, and so on until the 8th night when all the candles are lit. The candles may not be used for any other purpose, not even to light other candles. For this reason, an extra candle, a shamas or servant candle, is lit first and used to light the others. Once lit, the Hanukkah candles may not be blown out. They must be allowed to burn down completely. The candles usually burn out within an hour and are replaced each night. The dreidel is a square-shaped top. It has one of the Hebrew letters Nun, Kimmel, He, and Shin on each of its 4 sides. The letters stand for the words, I'm sure that I won't pronounce this correctly, so I apologize, Nes Gadol Hayasham. A great miracle happened there. The Dreidel game is played with nuts, raisins, or pennies. Everyone puts a piece in the center of the table or floor, then one player spins the dreidel. If none comes up, the spinner gets nothing. Kimmel, the spinner, takes everything. Hey, the spinner takes half. Shin, the spinner, adds a nut to the center. These are the usual rules. When Herschel, in our story, plays with the goblin, he's making up his own. Latkes are delicious potato pancakes. They are eaten hot from the pan with jam, sour cream, or applesauce. Oh, I'm so glad the author gave us this information so we can really understand so many pieces of this story. All right, I am really excited for you to read this book, and I really want you to think about this character Herschel, maybe who he reminds you of, or just what you enjoy about him as a character, okay? It was the first night of Hanukkah. Herschel of Ostropol was walking down the road. He was tired and hungry. Nonetheless, his step was light. Soon he would reach the next village where bright candles, merry songs, and platters piled high with tasty potato latkes awaited him. But when he arrived, the village was silent and dark. Not a single Hanukkah candle could be seen. Isn't tonight the first night of Hanukkah? Herschel asked the villagers. We don't have Hanukkah, Herschel, one of them answered sadly. No Hanukkah, how can that be? It's because of the goblins. They haunt the old synagogue at the top of the hill. They hate Hanukkah. Whenever we try to light a menorah, the goblins blow out the candles. They break our dreidels. They throw our potato latkes on the floor. Those wicked goblins make our lives miserable all year long. But on Hanukkah, it's really bad. Herschel knew he must help the village people. I'm not afraid of goblins, he said. Tell me how to get rid of them. It's not as easy as you think, the rabbi warned. You must spend 8 nights in the old synagogue. The Hanukkah candles must be lit each night. On the 8th night, the king of the goblins must light them himself. That is the only way to break their power. I'm not afraid, Rabbi, Herschel said. If I can't outwit a few goblins, then my name isn't Herschel of Ostropol. Isn't that an intriguing beginning? Like, I am hooked as a reader into this story already. First of all, I love that there's goblins and that they do all these things, right? And that Herschel is so brave that he's gonna go save Hanukkah for this village, and that there's all these like ways that they have to save it from the goblins. I just think this is such an intriguing beginning. In case you don't know, an old synagogue, a synagogue is a Jewish, like a Jewish church. So that's where Hanukkah will be going when he spends 8 nights there. Hanukkah has 8 nights when Hanukkah is celebrated, lighting 8 candles on the menorah. And a dreidel, if you don't know, is a really neat toy that's played with often at Hanukkah. Okay, Dowd, how would you describe Herschel? Do you think he's brave? Is he silly? What do you think about Herschel? I like that he's brand new to the village and he's gonna go save Hanukkah. The villagers wished Herschel good luck. They had no potato latkes to give him, so they packed several hard-boiled eggs for him to eat, along with a big jar of pickles. Okay, any of you that know me know I hate pickles. Oh, I hate pickles so much, so I'm a little sick by Herschel's food right here. The rabbi gave Herschel a brass menorah, a package of candles, and a box of matches. Then the villagers said goodbye. Nobody expected to see Herschel again. It was long past sundown by the time Herschel climbed to the top of the hill where the old synagogue stood. The crumbling building was gloomy and dark, and rusty hinges squealed as Herschel opened the door. Herschel shuddered. Well, he could believe that goblins lived here. He put 2 candles in the menorah and set it on the windowsill. He struck a match and lit the shamus candle. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, so I apologize if I'm not. He said the blessings and was about to light the other candle when he heard a voice. Hey, what are you doing? Herschel turned around. Here was a goblin no bigger than a horsefly, with a long pointy tail and 2 little bat's wings hovering in the air. I'm lighting Hanukkah candles, Herschel said. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. So I love how the author has described so many things here, right? I can really visualize and picture this as a reader. I love that he described the rusty hinges. I love the crumbling building. The way he describes the goblin as no bigger than a horsefly. So I'm thinking about that as like, right, a teeny little fly. I thought it was gonna be a goblin, like a big goblin. Well, I guess goblins aren't ever big, but I was picturing at least like a, I don't know, up to my knees, not a tiny little horsefly, with 2 little bat's wings. I don't even need to see it and I can picture it, and I love that as a reader when authors do that for me. I apologize to all of you who are watching my dogs in the background here. I'm gonna try to block them for you. They're very interested in what's happening in the story, I think. Oh, no, it's not. We don't allow Hanukkah. Not around here. Is that so? Said Herschel. Who's going to stop me? A little pipsqueak like you? I may be little, but I'm strong, said the goblin. Really? Can you crush rocks in your hand? Asked Herschel. The goblin laughed. Crush rocks? You're joking. Nobody's that strong. I am. Watch. Herschel took a hard-boiled egg from his pocket and squeezed it until the yolk and the white ran through his fingers. That's how hard I'm going to squeeze you if you try to stop me from lighting these candles. The little goblin's eyes opened wide, since in the dim light the egg looked exactly like a rock. The little goblin shook with fear. You leave me alone, he squeaked. Gladly, said Herschel, if you let me light my candles in peace. All right, said the goblin. One night won't make a difference, but you better not be here tomorrow. Big, scary goblins are coming, much bigger than I. If they catch you lighting Hanukkah candles, you'll be sorry. We'll see about that, Herschel said to himself. He lit the first candle. Now, first I thought Herschel was brave. Now I think he's very creative, witty, to try to trick the goblin there with just making the egg look like a rock. And there we can see the menorah in the picture behind him. And this must be the shamus candle, the one he was lighting first. On the second night, another goblin appeared. This one was big and fat and waddled like a goose. Oh, all the goblins are gonna be different. Oh, I'm excited by this. Look at this goblin. Isn't he great? Herschel was finishing his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs. Have some pickles, he said to the goblin. Pickles? Here, catch. Herschel tossed him a sour pickle. The goblin caught it in his mouth and swallowed it. Mmm, pickles are good. Do you like them? I have plenty in this jar. Take all you want. The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claws could hold, but when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. I'm stuck, the goblin shouted. You put a spell on this jar to hold me fast. That's right, Herschel said, laughing, and it's a very powerful spell. You came here tonight to stop me from lighting Hanukkah candles. So now I am going to light them while you stand with your hand in that jar and watch. How do you like that? No! No! The goblin screamed. I hate Hanukkah. That Herschel, he's creative, right? And I would never be able to have a pickle jar be used as a weapon against a goblin because I wouldn't have them. Too bad. You'll have to get used to it. Herschel said the blessings and lit the candles slowly. Then he sang all his favorite Hanukkah songs. The goblin wailed and carried on so much that Herschel finally decided to let him go. Shall I tell you how to break the spell? Yes, I can't stand it anymore. Let go of the pickles. Your greed is the only spell holding you prisoner. The goblin let go of the pickles. His hand slipped out of the jar easily. How that goblin raged. He had stood with his hand in a pickle jar while Herschel lit Hanukkah candles under his nose. The furious goblin stamped his foot so hard that he shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. The wind blew him away. Wow. The goblin got shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. This is a great story. How do you think the next goblin will look, first of all? And how will Herschel trick him on the third night? The third night came. Herschel felt something watching him as he set the candles in the menorah. Instead of lighting them, he began playing with the dreidel. An hour passed. Herschel looked up. Sitting across the table was another goblin. This one had a fiery red face and 2 enormous horns. It's getting late, the goblin said. When are you going to light the candles? Later. There's plenty of time. Herschel spun his dreidel. This is more fun. Ooh, okay, so first of all, can you picture the goblin? It said, a fiery red face and 2 enormous horns. Are you ready for this guy? Whoa. And here is the dreidel that I was telling you about. And then, I don't know where all these coins are coming from, so let's look at this. What are you playing with? The goblin asked. It looks like a top. It's a dreidel. Don't you know about dreidels? No. Too bad. Dreidels are a lot of fun. You can also make lots of money if you know how to play. Really? The goblin was interested now. All goblins like money. This one was no exception. How do you play? It's very simple, Herschel said, but you must have gold. That's the first rule. I have plenty. Is this enough? The goblin poured a pile of gold coins onto the table. Herschel. I have a feeling Herschel's going to trick that goblin into getting his coins. What do you think? That's fine, Herschel said. Listen carefully now. This letter is shin. If it comes up, you give me a handful of gold. This letter is hey. If it comes up, you give me half your gold. This is Kimmel. If the dreidel falls on this letter, you give me all your gold. Understand? Wait, there's one letter left. What about this one? That's none. If the dreidel falls on none, I don't give you anything. Ready? Let's play. You go first. Okay, did you guys pay attention to that game? That Herschel, he's good, right? One letter was how much the goblin has to give him. Another letter was half of it. Another letter was he gives it all of them. And then one was that Herschel doesn't have to give him anything. He's tricky, I like it. The goblin spun the dreidel. The little top whirled round and around. When it fell, the letter on top was shin. Too bad, Herschel said, taking a big handful of the goblin's gold. Try again. Maybe you'll have better luck. The goblin spun the dreidel once more. This time it fell on hay. This isn't your night, Herschel said, helping himself to half the goblin's gold. One more time, your luck is bound to improve. Once again, the goblin spun. This time the dreidel landed on Kimmel. Too bad, Herschel sighed as he took the rest of the goblin's gold. Would you like me to spin? Yes, the goblin grumbled. He was very unhappy about losing his money. Herschel spun the dreidel. This time the letter none was on top. Oh my, I don't give you anything. I get to keep all the gold. Say, that was fun. Go get some more gold and we'll play again. What about the Hanukkah candles? We'll light them later. There's plenty of time. Not for me, the goblin said. I'm leaving now. I don't like this game. I don't like Hanukkah, and I don't like you. Don't go, Herschel pleaded. I know lots of games. Stay a while. We'll have fun. Goodbye. The goblin spread his wings, swooped out the door, and flew off into the night. Herschel lit the candles all by himself. There goes the goblin. And Herschel, you can see now he's got, I think that was the third night, right? So he's got 3 candles lit. Okay, my friends. Can you picture the 4th goblin yet? Whoa! Look at this picture. You guys, look at all these. Oh my goodness, can you see this one right here? He's got 4 heads. This one has 3 eyes and those teeth. Oh my goodness. On the following nights, other goblins came. One had 6 heads. Oh, it's 6. I thought it was 4. One had 3 eyes. All were terrible and fierce. They growled and roared and changed themselves into horrible shapes. They tried to stop Herschel from lighting the Hanukkah candles, but Herschel fooled them all. Finally, the 7th night arrived. 8 tiny candles flickered on the windowsill. Herschel sat back to enjoy their light. Where were the goblins? Had they finally given up? Herschel felt very sleepy. His eyes closed. Suddenly he sat up. He heard a horrible sound, a voice that sounded like the cracking of bones. Oh, another great description from the author. A sound that sounds like the cracking of bones. Happy Hanukkah, Herschel of Ostropol. What do you guys think? Is it a goblin? Who is it? Who's there? Don't you know who I am, Herschel? Weren't you expecting the king of the goblins? The voice rose to a hurricane roar. It ripped the shingles from the synagogue roof and shattered the windows. The Hanukkah candles reeled in the savage blast, but they did not go out. You're too early, Herschel shrieked. You're not supposed to come until tomorrow. The great wind died down. Don't worry, Herschel, I am far away, but I have the power to see you and speak to you. Enjoy this Hanukkah evening, my friend. It will be your last. Tomorrow night I will come for you. You fooled my slaves, the other goblins. Let's see if you can fool me. Poor Herschel, what was he to do? The king of the goblins was on his way and no power on earth could stop him. Unless Herschel had an idea. It was a big chance, but he had to take it. It was the only way to save himself and Hanukkah. Oh man, I love how this author is hooking me in to figure out what will Herschel do? How is he going to trick the king of the goblins? And I'm scared. Look at what the king of the goblins could do. Oh my gosh, you guys, look at this. That is a terrifying goblin. It was the last night of Hanukkah. Herschel set the candles in the menorah, but instead of placing it on the windowsill, he put the menorah and the box of matches on a small table near the door. Then he sat down to wait. Night fell. It grew dark as pitch out inside the gloomy old synagogue. Outside, the whole world lay cold and silent. Suddenly, a great gust ripped the synagogue door from its hinges. The whole building shook. A fearsome voice spoke. Herschel of Ostropol! Did I hear something? It is I, the king of the goblins. Herschel laughed. Oh, don't be silly. You're one of the boys from the village. You're just trying to scare me. I am not a boy. I am the king of the goblins. I'll believe it when I see it. Show yourself to me. Behold, I stand before you. Do you believe me now? Herschel tried not to look. Even in the darkness, he could see the outline of a monstrous shape filling the doorway, a figure too horrible to describe. He pretended not to care. What a trick that Herschel's trying here. He's even braver than I thought he was going to be. It's too dark. I can't see anything. A candlestick and some matches are by the doorway. Why don't you light a few candles? Then I'll see what you really are. Oh, do you get it? Do you get Herschel's trick? Because remember, he had to get to the king of the goblins to light the, I'm going back. On the 8th night, the king of the goblins must light them himself. And so now he's telling the king of the goblins it's too dark. Do you see? Oh, that Herschel, he's tricky. Why don't you light a few candles? Then I'll see what you really are. Indeed you shall. A match flared. The shamus candle caught the flame. Herschel's blood turned to water at the awful sight before him, but he did not lose courage. Master of the world, he silently prayed, thou who created the heavens and the earth and the spirits of the air, stand by me now. Then he addressed the goblin. It's still too dark. What are you afraid of? There are plenty of candles. Why not just light them all? A hideous hand took the shamus candle and lit the others one by one. Herschel felt himself growing faint, but he forced himself not to look. He forced himself to look. His eyes grew wider and wider as each candle caught the flame. 6, 7, 8. The king of the goblins stood before him. Now, Herschel, do you know who I am? I know you're not Queen Esther. Very funny. Enjoy the joke. It will be your last. Whoa. Okay, so Herschel's tricked him, right? He lit all the candles. Is he gonna explode? What will happen? Whoa, look at this. I can see why this illustrator won an award. So cool. That's what you think. Be gone or I'll take a stick to you. How dare you speak to the king of the goblins that way? I'll speak to you any way I please. You have no power. Your spell is broken. See, the menorah is lit. You thought those were ordinary candles you were lighting. They weren't. They were Hanukkah candles, and you lit them yourself. The king of the goblins roared with fury. The earth trembled and a mighty wind arose. It ripped off the synagogue roof and blew down the walls. It splintered the great timbers and scattered them like matchsticks. Around the menorah, the whirlwind howled, but the candles never flickered. They burned with clear, steady flames. The king of the goblins had no power over them. The spirit of Hanukkah had triumphed. Oh my gosh, I love this story so much. The spirit of Hanukkah. The candles remained lit in all of that chaos that the king of the goblins called. The great wind vanished as suddenly as it had risen. Herschel rubbed his eyes. The night was as still as before, even though the synagogue was gone. Walls, floor, roof, even the foundation stones had vanished, but the menorah remained, standing tall upon the little table where Herschel had placed it. Now, does that remind you of the original Hanukkah story that we were talking about? Pretty cool. Herschel waited until the last candle burned out. Then he started down the road that led to the village. I'd better hurry, he thought. I don't want to miss the last night of Hanukkah. But there was no reason to worry. In every window there stood a menorah with 9 gleaming candles to light the way. The whole village was waiting for him. Oh. Herschel has saved Hanukkah. Oh, gosh. I just love this character, don't you? Could we write a better character, right? He's brave, he's creative, he's witty, he saves Hanukkah. I just loved this so much. I hope you enjoyed this story, friends, too. And I think this might be one of my new holiday favorites. Have a great day.